Hi, everybody. This is Stefan Molyneux from Free Domain Radio. Recently in America, 2 black men were shot by cops. And what happened, of course? Well, you see, it's an election year, and so the media whipped up as much race-baiting, anti-white hatred as humanly, or dare I say, inhumanly possible. And the facts began to come out. One of the blacks who was shot was a convicted child molester and gun runner. The other... well, there are various reports floating around. Does it really matter? Because it doesn't. What matters, what really matters, is that the whole concept of innocent until proven guilty has been thrown out the window. And President Obama commented on it in tones and terms that we will get to in a few moments, but one of the culminations of all of this race baiting that has been going on for many, many years now, that the left wishes to provoke the hornet's nest of black resentment in order to garner votes for Democratic politicians. What happened tonight in Dallas? Downtown Dallas is currently, as we record, in a lockdown. It is reported that 2 snipers using advanced tactics triangulation methodologies from elevated positions have assassinated, not shot, assassinated 11 cops. 1 woman is confirmed shot. 4 deaths have been confirmed for the cops. 2 are in surgery and 3 are in critical condition, and 1 civilian has been injured as well. The police are also searching for a possible bomb, which to me puts this somewhere in the vicinity of a massively coordinated terrorist attack, if not a downright declaration of war. And some of these stories are shaky at best. Piedmont Park in Atlanta, a black man was found hanging from a tree. What did everyone say? Even though there's not been a lynching in America for over 50 years. Lynching! He was killed by racists. They're hunting us! Well, unfortunately, or fortunately for facts, there was no discernible signs of a struggle or foul play. Medical examiner concurred that the death was consistent with a suicide. So basically, America is being divided into 2 groups. Those who believe race-baiting narratives and those who, like myself, have a high-flaming Berlin Wall of skepticism with regards to these stories. It's starting to become like listening to women complaining about fraternity rapes. Yeah, maybe it happens, but boy, there's a lot of crying wolf going on. Do people care about people being shot and killed by the police? Young, unarmed people? No. June 25th, an unarmed 19-year-old white man was shot and killed by police. Who cared? See, that doesn't get the Democrats votes. This story, this victimization. The blacks, they're victims, 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 victims. What are the facts? Well, in 2013, a black was 6 times more likely than a non-black to commit murder. In 2013, a black was 12 times more likely to murder someone of another race than to be murdered by someone of another race. See, slavery, tragic, horrible. Yeah, 150 years ago. Jim Crow, half a century ago. This stuff, these disparities are happening right now. In 2013, there were about 660,000 crimes of interracial violence involving blacks and whites. Of those 660,000 crimes, blacks were the perpetrators 85% of the time. What does this mean? This means that, again, as of 2013, a black person was 27 times more likely to attack a white person than vice versa. And you see, that is in fact what you call racism. And victimization, it just points a little bit different than what is constantly claimed. Let's go to New York City, 2014. What are the stats? What are the facts? A black was 31 times more likely than a white to be arrested for murder. Oh, you say, well, you see, it's because the cops are so racist. No. because the arrest rates for minorities are consistent with the complaints of the race of the alleged perpetrator. 31 times more likely than a white to be arrested for murder. Now, for the crime of shooting, which is firing a bullet that hits someone, a black in New York City in 2014 was 98.4 times more likely than a white to be arrested. Is it all really and solely about white racism? Imagine being a cop in New York City. These numbers, these ratios, these incredibly lopsided statistics are burned into your spinal cord, into your reflexes. Do Black Lives Matter? Yeah, of course. All life matters. In 2015, police killings of blacks were about 4% of homicides of blacks. So police killed about 4% of the homicides inflicted upon blacks. Police killings of unarmed blacks, 0.6% of all homicides of blacks. Boy, seems to be quite a lot left over. From 1980 to 2008, 93% of blacks were killed by blacks. Do Black Lives matter to blacks? You say, well, but blacks get shot by cops at higher ratios than whites. Some truth to that. 5-year study of non-felony arrests in San Francisco found that blacks were 9.6 times more likely than whites, including Hispanics, to be charged with resisting arrest. 9.6 times more likely to be charged with resisting arrest. Is that all pure racism? Is that what we're just going to shovel all of these numbers, all of these disparities, all of these problems? This big, giant beluga maw of white racism is going to answer everything? Come on. If it's racism, how about this? 2015 Department of Justice study. Police shootings in Philly found racial differences in what's called threat perception failure. So that's when an officer shoots an unarmed suspect because the officer thinks that the suspect was armed. Black officers were nearly twice as likely as white officers to shoot an unarmed black. Nearly twice as likely as white officers to shoot an unarmed black. See the whole white racism thing wearing a little bit thin and doing a massive amount of damage to the black community. I say this because black lives do matter. And the way that we solve problems is with facts. Since at least 2002 and up to 2013, murder, the leading cause of death for black men aged 15 to 34. The murderers almost always other black men. A 2015 study of American men that was based on the National Longitudinal Study of Adolescent Health found that if you control for IQ and lifetime records of violence, you completely account for all racial differences in arrest rates. IQ, lifetime records of violence, completely erase racial differences in arrest rates. Now, these are the facts. There is a troubled, dysfunctional community producing a vastly disproportionate number of criminals who resist arrest. These are facts. If these are the behaviors of significant proportions of the black community, is it always and forever only irrational, unjust, crazy racism from outside the black community that is the only cause and only source of problems? If you say yes, you're a racist. Obama weighed in from Poland, and he said, all Americans should be deeply troubled by the fatal shootings of Alton Sterling in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and Philando Castile in Falcon Heights, Minnesota. We've seen such tragedies far too many times, and our hearts go out to the families and communities who've suffered such a painful loss. Although, he said, I am constrained in commenting on the particular facts of these cases, I am encouraged that the U.S. Department of Justice has opened a civil rights investigation in Baton Rouge, and I have full confidence in their professionalism and their ability to conduct a thoughtful, thorough, and fair inquiry. But regardless of the outcome of such investigation, what's clear is that these fatal shootings are not isolated incidents. They are symptomatic of the broader challenges within our criminal justice system, the racial disparities that appear across the system year after year, and the resulting lack of trust that exists between law enforcement and too many of the communities they serve. See what he's doing here? You see what he's doing? Any problems in the black community? Any problems with a culture of violence? Any problem with addiction to criminality? Any problems with single motherhood? Any problems with drug addiction? Any problems with not getting work? No! Never ever talk about any problems within the black community. Because then they might not vote for the Democrats, you see? So this is what the Democrats will never do. These supposed racial egalitarians think that the black community is such a fragile and hysterical house of cards that the truth will hit it like a tornado on a penguin. Why can't people tell the black community the truth, the facts? Well, if you don't tell an entire group the facts, if you think they can't handle the truth, you're a racist. And this cancer of leftist racism has been re-emerging for the past few hundred years in the West. And it is time we stared it in the face and called it for what it is. Racism. Obama said, all Americans should recognize the anger, frustration, and grief that so many Americans are feeling. Feelings that are being expressed in peaceful protests and vigils. Michelle and I share those feelings. Rather than fall into a predictable pattern of division and political posturing, let's reflect on what we can do better. Let's come together as a nation and keep faith with one another in order to ensure a future where all of our children know that their lives matter. Astonishing. Astonishing. No mention of any of the problems within the black community that the black community could be empowered to solve by looking inwards and fixing things. No, it's all the justice system. It is the justice system that drags black men out of bed, forces them to go and commit crimes, and then just arrest them. All the white people do is wake up every morning, we brush our teeth, we comb our hair, and we say, gosh, how can I possibly convince someone to commit a crime today? Hot tip, we're kind of busy. Don't have time. Now, why is all of this race baiting seething up? Well, it's an election year. It's an election year, just like it was in 2012. A day or two ago, Hillary Clinton got smacked down by James Comey, the head of the FBI. He outed her directly as being an outright liar to the American population for the past 14 months, saying she never sent or received any classified emails, saying she cared about national security. He said she did send and receive classified emails, and she was ridiculously careless with security. So James Comey outed Hillary Clinton as a liar and somebody who was careless with the national defense secrets of the United States. So what happened? Well, the leftist media had to spark a race war to cover her tracks. That's why all this is happening. This is why, as predictable as dawn, all these stories coming out, pumped. The Queen is going down. And so you get this race baiting, and you get this blacks are being hunted and kill the cops and why? Because the media won't tell the truth. They won't tell the truth about the relationships between a dysfunctional culture and high criminality. They won't tell the truth about high illegitimacy and its effects on criminality, about race and IQ, about race and crime rates, and about anti-white hatred. Recently in America, A black person punched a white woman in the face after screaming, "I hate white people," and the judge declared it not a hate crime. You see, because white people are the last legitimate group that can be hated with impunity and, in fact, with applause. So no one's willing to tell the truth. No one's willing to deal with the facts. And everything that goes wrong in the black community is always everyone else's fault. See, for the past couple of 100 years, if not the past couple of 1,000 years, but certainly in America the last couple of 100 years, who's been in charge of race relations? That's right, the government. Government instituted slavery. Government enforced slave contracts. Governments protected slave ships. Who enforced Jim Crow? Who enforced segregation? Governments. See, remember how governments are in charge of making sure everyone gets educated? How's that working out? Remember how governments fantastically in charge and just eliminating the war on drugs and making sure that everybody lives in a peaceful drug-free nation? How's that working out? Remember how the government is supposed to make sure that currency is stable and there's not any booms and busts in the economy? How's that working out? Government's there to make sure unemployment stays low. How's that working out? Government is going to go create peace and stability in the Middle East. How's that working out? Do you know what else? The government is going to make sure that everybody gets along, that we all embrace in the rainbow hug of diversity. How's that coming along? See, the government is in charge of all of these things, and the government is in charge of race relations. And if we don't wake up and start speaking the facts, start speaking the truth, have an honest conversation about race and crime, they're going to get us all killed. See, Obama came in and said, "Hey, we're going to solve all these race problems." How's that working out? You see, fundamentally, what happened in Dallas tonight? Brutal, unspeakable, coordinated, terrorist-style violence. Assassination. Murder for political causes. You only get the violence after you tell the lies. You understand? We, you and I, if you have the courage to speak these truths and share this information, we literally save lives by speaking the truth. The truth doesn't just set you free. The truth stops bullets. The truth calms rages. The truth gives people hungry for solutions, something productive and effective to do. Of course, those who speak the truth are hated by those who profit from lies. But so what? Being hated by the liars and the sophists who are leading us off a cliff is a badge of honor, a medal, if you will. I'm willing to wear it openly. Are you?